After such a long and anticipated debut, Raw finally made its mark on Netflix. It was a massive, massive night, which we all kind of knew that it was going to be, considering there were people within WWE saying that it was close to a WrestleMania. And while I may not go as far as saying that it felt like a WrestleMania, it definitely felt like a PLE would. It was not your traditional episode of Monday Night Raw, but it really did have that PLE feel to it. And while I don't think it's going to have that full-time feel, I do think that there is still going to be some adjusting to do, not just from WWE, but from a fan's perspective. Getting used to watching it on Netflix as opposed to just straight up cable TV is going to take some time to fully adjust to. But I do think that the show as a whole went off without a hitch. I know a lot of people had their concerns about the buffering issue that we saw during the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. The opening of the show was one of my favorite openings that we've gotten to a Monday Night Raw possibly ever. Starting with the curtain around the ring and that video that played, narrated by Triple H himself, the chills that I and a lot of other people got from just watching and hearing those words from Triple H really just, it made you remember why we love pro wrestling and why we love the WWE. And it was also a big start to it because this was a lot of people's first time watching pro wrestling or the WWE. So the video itself was fantastic, and then the curtain drops, and one of the most badass introductions that you will ever see, Triple H standing in the middle of the ring with the spotlight on him. It was just a great kickoff to this new era that it really truly feels like we're in now. Since Triple H took over, we've been talking all about this new era in WWE. And while I do think that you could say, oh, it started at this show or this show, I think it starts here. I think the debut episode of Raw on Netflix is the true start of this new era. And I think Triple H's message in the beginning of the show to kick off Monday Night Raw really, really made it feel like that this was truly a new era. And then after Triple H's badass message, we get The Rock right off the hop. And a lot of people were wondering what we were going to get from The Rock segment, and I think we can all kind of agree that we did not expect it to go the way it did. So obviously, always a fantastic and great thing to see The Rock on WWE TV, but I think that this segment left one big question on everyone's mind. What's next? Because this was not the final boss Rock that we saw last year. This was The Rock. And him being good with Cody Rhodes now, shaking hands, having a drink, kind of weird, not gonna lie. And then he's obviously on good terms with Roman Reigns now. So, what's next? What was the whole 1, 2, 3 thing at Bad Blood about? Where are we going next with this? The segment itself was good. It's always good to see The Rock. But I do still think that there is that one big question of what's next, and I don't think we're going to get that answer until possibly the Royal Rumble. I think this was more of just The Rock representing TKO in a way, and that was kind of it. I don't think that this segment from The Rock had anything to do with the storyline itself. And if it did, well then we've got some serious, serious questions to ask WWE and The Rock. So, getting on to the matches, we started off with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa in a tribal combat match. And this match was fantastic. It was a great match. Solo Sikoa really got the best out of Roman Reigns in this match, I feel like, and I think it really made Solo look really, really good. And I think even with all of the outside interference with the new bloodline coming in, Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso coming in, Kevin Owens coming in out of nowhere, Cody Rhodes coming in out of nowhere, that did not take away from the match, and it kind of felt like we were re-watching the WrestleMania 41 Night 2 main event because things just kept happening, especially when the new bloodline came out. Everyone just started showing up. And that's how the main event felt from night 2 of WrestleMania 40. Roman Reigns ultimately gets the win, he becomes the tribal chief once again, and all is right with the world. And then The Rock comes back out to hand him the Ulafala, which again begs the question, what's next with the Bloodline storyline? I think a lot of people had the expectations of The Rock coming back into the ring, giving Roman a rock bottom after he puts the Ulafala on him, or just putting the Ulafala on himself, which I think would have been such a badass move. But we ultimately didn't get any of that. We got a sign of respect from both The Rock and Roman Reigns. But I will say, if there is something to pull from The Rock's appearance, it's going to be the fact that he did not acknowledge Roman Reigns. He kind of just stood in the corner of the ring and didn't really do a whole lot. He just stood there. He didn't raise the one, he didn't do any of that. That's your story right there. Take it. Up next, we had the segment that had a lot of people my age weeping, and that is the John Cena segment. The official kickoff to the Cena retirement tour, not what I was expecting, but at least we got some answers of what to expect from Cena's retirement tour. And this segment got me so damn excited for this retirement tour. I was obviously already excited for it, but this just bumped it up a notch. Especially when he started mentioning matches with Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre. Like, those three names alone are all must-watch matches, especially that CM Punk one. I think that one has WrestleMania written all over it. Do I think that's going to be at WrestleMania? No, I don't. But I still do think that that match is going to be an absolute classic. And not only that, but we got him talking about that 17th title and how he talked about it was not going to happen. It was never going to happen. But then he remembers that he is in the WWE where you can never say never. And that is when he officially declared for the Royal Rumble. I think we all kind of knew that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble. We knew that he was going to take part in Elimination Chamber, but we still didn't really know about the Royal Rumble until he confirmed it himself. I love the fact that we are getting Cena throughout the year, and especially in the Royal Rumble, because the Royal Rumble is probably my favorite PLE of the entire calendar year from WWE. So, Cena officially declares for the Royal Rumble in search for that elusive 17th title. Up next, we had a satisfying conclusion, I feel, to the Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley feud. I do think that this feud is over, and I think it is because of the moment that we got from Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, with Rhea Ripley delivering a Riptide to Dominic. And if it is the end of that feud, I think it was a very, very good match to go out on. Rhea winning, I think it makes sense. Again, I do think that Liv, Raquel, and Dom go and they take care of the split or divorce, whatever's happening right now with the Judgment Day. I think that's where those three go. I think Rhea Ripley has bigger fish to fry, and I think she kind of needed that championship to push things a little further. So I think it makes sense that Rhea won, and I do think that it is the end of the feud. It just started getting repetitive, and when it starts getting repetitive, it starts getting boring. So I think this is it for this feud. It was a really, really good feud, a fantastic feud. But I think Rhea ultimately hitting Dirty Dom with the Riptide was the official end of the feud and wrapped it all in a nice bow. Up next, we had Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso. And before we start, we gotta talk about Jey Uso's entrance coming in with Travis Scott, while Travis Scott is taking a pretty big hit of you-know-what. The match itself was very, very good. However, I'm not a huge fan of how the match ended. I felt like it was kind of just out of nowhere with the kind of roll-up pin from Jey Uso. I'm fine with Jey Uso winning, but I thought that the ending of that match deserved to be a little bit better than what we got. But the light in all of that is that I do think we're going to get more from these two. I don't think this was the last match between these two. I do think they could have a couple more. Then we get to the most awkward and just bizarre moment of the night. Hulk Hogan. Not just Hulk Hogan getting booed out of the building. Again, Hulk Hogan showing up is what it is. They got a new brand deal with his beer company, which I think is kind of weird. When I heard the music hit, I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't going to go over well. I know a lot of people are talking about it from a political standpoint. I stay out of politics, so I do not care at all. But putting the politics aside, it's still a weird decision. And poor Jimmy Hart was giving it his all, trying to get the people to care about Hulk Hogan, standing in the back just waving that American flag until he himself just looked so uncomfortable. Again, politics aside, people just don't really care about Hulk Hogan anymore. He doesn't have the same appeal that he did back in the 80s. He just doesn't have that same appeal to people anymore. So that is why I think it's just a bizarre decision, not from a political standpoint, but just because people don't care about Hulk Hogan anymore. And especially given everything that has happened in his past, people really don't care about him anymore. Really, the only part of the night where I was like, probably could have done without that. But then we got saved by the main event between Seth Rollins and CM Punk. That match itself was fantastic. It was a great match. I knew it would be. This was the most anticipated match for me, and I think a lot of other people on this card. And I really, really hope that we get more from these two because I feel like we need more between these two. The story is just too damn good to just have one match and be done with it. I don't want to necessarily say this needs to be a CM Punk Drew McIntyre-esque rivalry, but I think it's got to be somewhere in that ballpark. Because again, I think the story is just too damn good for there to be one match and then that's it. But the match itself, fantastic. The feud, fantastic. Need to see more from it. So overall, I thought the show was great. I thought the new camera angles and camera shots that we got really made it look top notch. From production wise to story wise, I thought it was all a really, really good show. Every match was good. There were no dead spots besides the whole Hulk Hogan thing. But above all else, I think it was a great start to this new era of WWE because this really does feel like it's the start of the new era. Whatever you want to call it, the Paul Levesque era, the Triple H era, the Renaissance era, the Netflix era, whatever you want to call it, this really felt like it was the beginning of it. So I think things are only going to continue going up for WWE, and I think we're going to start seeing bigger and bigger numbers from them. So this is where I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of the debut episode of Raw on Netflix, and did it live up to expectations? Because there were some massive expectations set. So let me know all that stuff down below in the comments, and while you're down there, swing by the description and click the Linktree link. That link will take you to all of the social media for this channel, and I do suggest going and checking out our X page. Besides YouTube, I am most active over on X. We do updates for Monday Night Raw, sometimes Friday Night SmackDown, and sometimes the PLEs. If you're new around here, I only say sometimes for Fridays and Saturdays because this is the part of the year where Fridays and Saturdays just get really, really busy for me, and I am not able to watch Friday Night SmackDown a lot of times. But I am going to be available for Monday Night Raw, providing something unforeseen doesn't happen. Above all else, I want the X page to be a place for wrestling fans to go and talk about wrestling. If last night was any indication, wrestling is so back, and it's great to watch it on your own, but it's even better when you have people to actually talk to about it. And if you're like me, you don't have a lot of people in your life to talk about wrestling. So if you are like me and you want to have people to talk to about WWE and pro wrestling in general, swing by an upcoming episode of Monday Night Raw, join in on a conversation, and maybe it's for you at the end of the day. With all that said and done, that is going to do it for this video here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button. If you really enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Both are free and both help out the channel a lot. And as always, stay tuned for more content coming in the future. We'll see you next time.